the haunted shadow puppet master of Java, Indonesia. Long before smartphones and crowded cities changed the countryside of Indonesia, small villages in central Java lived peacefully beside endless rice fields, bamboo forests, and quiet muddy roads. Every evening during monsoon season, warm lantern light glowed from wooden houses while distant gamelan music drifted softly through the humid air. In one small village lived a boy named Ardi and his best friend Sari. Like many children growing up in the 1990s, their world was simple. School in the morning, cycling through muddy roads after rain, listening to old folklore stories beneath flickering oil lamps at night. But deep inside the village stood an abandoned Wayang Kulit theater that nobody dared visit after sunset. Because according to old villagers, a ghostly shadow puppet master still performed there during stormy nights. One cloudy afternoon after heavy monsoon rain, Ardi and Bimo raced old bicycles beside flooded rice fields while thunder rolled across the darkening sky. The smell of wet earth filled the air while water dripped slowly from banana trees beside the road. For children growing up in rural Java during the 1990s, rainy days felt magical. But hidden behind the peaceful atmosphere, older villagers carried a fear they never fully explained. A fear connected to the abandoned puppet theater at the edge of the village. That evening, villagers gathered beneath warm lantern light to watch Pak Wirio perform a traditional Wayang Kulit shadow puppet show inside the old bamboo hall. The white puppet screen glowed softly, while ancient gamelan instruments echoed through the rainy night. Children watched silently as puppet shadows danced across the screen. But many elders whispered quietly among themselves. Because years earlier, another puppet master once performed in the same theater before mysteriously disappearing during a violent monsoon storm. Since then, villagers claimed strange puppet performances still appeared late at night inside the abandoned building. After the performance ended, Ardi and Sari wandered behind the old stage while rain tapped softly against the bamboo roof above them. Rows of ancient leather shadow puppets hung silently beneath dim lantern light. Their painted faces looked strangely alive inside the darkness. Pak Wirio carefully arranged the puppets while avoiding eye contact with the children. And somewhere outside beyond the rain, faint gamelan music echoed through the village even though the musicians had already gone home. Late that night beside the fog-covered village market, Nenek Rukmini quietly warned Ardi never to follow mysterious gamelan music after midnight. The elderly herbal seller spoke softly, while carrying a glowing oil lantern through drifting mist. According to village folklore, the haunted shadow puppet master appeared only during monsoon storms. And anyone who watched his performance until the end would disappear before sunrise. Several nights later during heavy rain, Ardi and Bimo passed the abandoned theater while returning home beside muddy village roads. Then suddenly, ancient gamelan music echoed from inside the dark building. Slow, beautiful, and impossible. The theater had been abandoned for years. Yet glowing lantern light flickered behind the bamboo walls while puppet shadows moved silently across the white screen. Deep inside the abandoned theater, Pak Wirio sat alone beneath flickering lantern light, surrounded by ancient puppets and dusty instruments. The old man stared silently toward the white puppet screen while rain hammered endlessly against the roof above him. Some villagers believed Pak Wirio knew far more about the haunted puppet master than he admitted. Because every time the ghostly performances returned, Pak Wirio became strangely distant and sorrowful. Near midnight, Ardi and Sari followed the mysterious gamelan sounds through narrow bamboo roads covered in thick monsoon fog. Lantern light flickered softly against muddy puddles while cold wind moved through banana leaves overhead. The deeper they walked into the darkness, the quieter the village became behind them. Only the distant puppet music remained, calling them closer. Inside the abandoned theater, a terrifying sight waited behind the glowing white puppet screen. The shadow puppet master stood silently controlling ancient Wayang Kulit puppets with long pale fingers beneath flickering oil lantern light. His hollow eyes reflected no life, only endless sadness. The puppet shadows moved unnaturally across the walls while ancient gamelan instruments played by themselves inside the darkness. Ardi, Bimo, and Sari stood frozen beside the theater doorway, while violent rain flooded the village outside. Puppet shadows crawled across bamboo walls like living spirits while the mysterious performance continued without pause. And through the sound of thunder and rain, The ghostly puppet master slowly turned toward the frightened children. The next day, during another stormy evening, Artie visited Nenek Rukmini's herbal shop beside the quiet market road. Beneath warm lantern light and hanging bundles of herbs, she finally revealed the ancient legend behind the haunted puppet master. Many years earlier, a talented Dalong performed Wayang Kulit shows across villages throughout central Java. People traveled for miles just to hear his stories. But during one terrible monsoon night, a fire destroyed the theater while he performed alone inside. His body was never found. Only burned puppets remained beneath the ashes. Later that evening, village elders gathered beside the old banyan tree speaking quietly with Pak Wirio while dark clouds covered the sky once again. Nobody wanted children talking about the ghostly performances. Because deep inside their hearts, the elders feared the old spirit had returned after decades of silence. Near midnight, Artie and Sari stood beneath the giant banyan tree beside the abandoned road while distant puppet music echoed once again through the fog. Rainwater dripped slowly from hanging roots while lightning illuminated the empty theater in the distance. The entire village felt strangely frozen beneath the storm, as if time itself had stopped. Inside the abandoned building, the shadow puppet master continued his eerie performance beneath flickering lantern light. Ancient puppet shadows stretched unnaturally across bamboo walls while thunder shook the theater around him. And despite the terrifying atmosphere, something about the lonely spirit felt deeply tragic rather than evil. Driven by curiosity and fear, Artie and Bimo finally stepped inside the abandoned puppet theater during the height of the storm. Water leaked through broken bamboo ceilings while old gamelan instruments echoed softly through the darkness. Every corner smelled of wet wood, incense, and forgotten memories. Then suddenly, the puppet performance stopped. And silence filled the theater completely. Moments later, Pak Wirio appeared beside the old puppet stage holding a lantern with trembling hands. Under the warm flickering light, he finally revealed the truth. The haunted puppet master had once been his own teacher many years earlier. A legendary Dalong whose performances brought entire villages together during difficult times. But after the fire destroyed the theater, his spirit never found peace. And every monsoon season, the lonely ghost returned searching for an audience that no longer existed. Then suddenly, the glowing puppet screen moved. The ghostly shadow puppet master slowly emerged from behind the white cloth while ancient puppets floated unnaturally around him. His hollow eyes reflected endless loneliness beneath the storm. Not hatred. Not anger. Only sorrow. As if trapped forever between memory and silence. Meanwhile, inside a warm bamboo house, Sari prayed beside burning incense while Nenek Rukmini performed ancient Javanese spiritual blessings beneath flickering oil lantern light. Outside, thunder shook the village endlessly. But inside the small room, hope survived beside the soft candle flames. As the storm intensified, rainwater flooded the abandoned theater while bamboo beams cracked loudly overhead. Artie, Bimo, and Pak Wirio struggled through the collapsing stage while puppet shadows danced wildly across the walls beneath flashes of lightning. The entire building trembled like it was reliving the terrible fire from long ago. Beneath flickering lantern light, Pak Wirio stood face to face with the ghostly puppet master while rain poured endlessly outside. For the first time in decades, the lonely spirit was no longer performing alone. And as ancient gamelan music echoed softly through the darkness, the shadow puppet master slowly lowered his puppets, almost as if finally ready to rest. At dawn, Artie and Pak Wirio stood inside the flooded remains of the old theater, while mist drifted through broken bamboo walls. The ghostly puppets were gone. Only silence remained beside scattered leather figures resting across the wet floor. But deep inside the quiet building, the faint smell of incense still lingered in the morning air. Later that morning, village elders gathered beneath the ancient banyan tree discussing the events of the storm quietly among themselves. Some believed the spirit had finally disappeared forever. Others feared he would eventually return during another monsoon season. Because legends tied to memory never truly vanish. As golden sunlight spread across peaceful rice fields, Artie and Sari sat quietly beside a bamboo fence remembering the terrifying events of the night before. The village looked calm once again. Children walked to school. Farmers returned to the fields. And distant birds flew across the warm morning sky. Yet somewhere deep inside, Artie knew the old theater still carried hidden stories beneath its silence. Several weeks later, Pak Wirio organized another traditional Wayang Kulit performance during the village festival. Warm lanterns glowed beside bamboo streets while children laughed beneath the humid evening sky. For the first time in many years, the old traditions returned without fear. Artie, Bimo, and Sari wandered happily through crowded village festival roads while soft gamelan music drifted through the warm monsoon night. Food stalls glowed beneath colorful lanterns while rainwater reflected golden lights across muddy roads. For children growing up in 1990s Java, nights like these became memories that lasted forever. But deep inside the abandoned puppet theater, a faint lantern still glowed behind the old white puppet screen late at night. And hidden within the darkness, the shadow puppet master quietly continued his lonely performance for an audience long gone. The next morning, Artie rode his old bicycle beside flooded rice fields while cool wind moved gently through the countryside after rain. Everything felt peaceful again. But every time distant gamelan music echoed through the morning fog, he remembered the lonely spirit inside the theater. That night, Sari listened quietly while Nenek Rukmini told old folklore stories beside warm lantern light inside the bamboo house. Outside, soft monsoon rain tapped gently against the windows while crickets echoed through the darkness. Late that night, Pak Wirio stood quietly outside the abandoned theater, while fog drifted slowly across the empty village road. Inside the building, a faint shadow moved once again behind the glowing puppet screen. The performance had never truly ended. As warm lanterns glowed across the peaceful village during another rainy evening, Artie, Sari, Bimo, and Pak Wirio listened quietly to distant gamelan music drifting through the misty night air. And somewhere beyond the fog-covered bamboo roads, the haunted shadow puppet master continued telling forgotten stories beneath flickering lantern light forever.